Hey everyone, welcome to Collagen College. Today we're going to be talking about foods that contain collagen, not to be confused with foods that boost collagen production or synthesis. With me is the one and only Dr. Cate Shanahan. Hi, Dr. Cate. How are you?
Good. Hi, Eric.
Are you ready for this?
I am so ready to talk about collagen. This is Collagen College.
This is Collagen College. Yes, we've got the matching shirts on and we are ready to go. I think this is going to be really fun for a number of reasons. What I'm really excited about is we actually got props. And I know you've got a prop too.
Yum. I do. Mine
You do.
probably tastes the best because this is
Yeah,
homemade bone stock.
yeah, this is pretty tasty. These capsules are not tasty because they're capsules. And of course, this is very tasty because, of course, this is our collagen protein powder, multi-collagen protein powder. Dr. Cate, you mentioned almost 4 food groups, right? And
Yeah.
so let's just start there. What are these 4 food groups?
Okay, so we've just grouped it into bone broth, certain organ meats, and this thing I call meat on the bone, which includes cartilage, skin, bone, and joint material, and eggshell membrane. So not really eggs, but eggshell membrane. So there's like categories, right? You could kind of group them in more if you wanted to, or fewer, but that's how we've done it.
And we're gonna talk about each of those groups in this video. But let me just address something really quickly, and this is just from the research that we did together. And I think everyone gets confused on this topic of foods that contain collagen versus foods that actually help with collagen production. You know, some content out there, you're going to see that blueberries and green leafy vegetables have collagen, and it's so misleading. And I think it's really important from the get-go to talk about this distinction. Why do you think there's confusion around this?
Well, it's marketing. So people are trying to sell a collagen supporting product that doesn't cost as much as collagen. There's that benefit, right? If it's not as costly and you can say that it's going to somehow help your collagen, you can get away with that, then that's a win for marketing. But it doesn't actually mean really anything. And when I say it doesn't really mean anything, I want to talk about like this. So like, first of all, your body can make some collagen if you don't eat it, right? But the reason we sell collagen supplements is because if you do eat collagen or supplement with collagen, then it supports the manufacture of more collagen, right? Mm-hmm. So let's say you were going to make X percent, say 80% of the collagen that you could possibly make. But if you do all the things to support your collagen production, the biggest one being eat collagen-rich foods, then you can get up to 100, or maybe even 110 temporarily, right? But you do need lots of stuff. It's not just collagen. It's not like you just eat collagen and magically you have more collagen in your skin. It's a complicated manufacturing process, and so your cells need other stuff, right? They need energy. So they need any source of sugar could technically be considered a collagen supporting food. And that's where the marketing people take it to that like ridiculous level of like, oh, well, there's something in here that helps your body make collagen. So let's call it a collagen supporting food, but it's pretty much meaningless at that point. You really just need collagen.
Right. I love that. And going through this research was so educational for me because me being a marketer myself, I even fall to marketing tactics, right? So it's been a lot of fun for me to really get to the truth of what we're talking about here. So let's go ahead and dive right in, Dr. Cate. I was going to call you DC, by the way. I'm probably going to call you DC. And for those that are watching this, DC, of course, Dr. Cate, I got that from our founder, Charlie. And so I use that occasionally. That's what it stands for. So DC, let's talk about number 1, which is bone broth, which is what I've got here, Kettle and Fire brand, which I love. I drink almost every day, the whole thing. Why is bone broth an excellent source of collagen?
Because what goes into it is super collagen-rich foods. Like, for example, like at any recipe for if you've made chicken stock or bone stock, you've got to start with some bones, right? So if you had chicken, you save the carcass, throw that in there. And then there's not just the bones, of course. There's all the wiggly jiggly things that hold the bones together, the tendons and the ligaments. And sometimes there's some skin that you might throw in there because maybe you bought something. Like when they make this stuff, they buy probably necks, maybe chicken feet, have a lot of skin. That's really full of collagen. Those are the main things that go into bone stock, whether it's chicken or could even be fish. You can make bone stock from fish. Same concept, the fish skin, the fish bones and joints. You can make it from beef. Don't usually add beef skin. It's not usually part of the recipes. Pork, same deal as beef. You got the joint material, the bones, but not usually the skin. It's just not available to us these days.
And, Charlie, our founder, this is his second plug, so he should feel very lucky. But he mentions, I would always recommend having someone take or drink bone broth regularly, and they wouldn't need our multi-collagen supplement, right? Because it's so rich of collagen. It's the reason why it's probably number one on our list. And, just from the discussions that we've had, I mean, bone broth is, yes, it's rich in collagen, but it's also got a very distinct taste, and it can be really expensive if you don't make it yourself. But if you do make it yourself, it is very much a labor of love. And like I mentioned, the taste is very particular, and it might take a little bit of time to get used to it. But I love that approach. I mean, this is the approach we do with everything, right? We recommend people to eat real food first and then supplement.
Sure, absolutely. But just on the taste, then you need to adjust the recipe if it's not tasting good, because when we make it, it's totally delicious. Like this just smells like so good, and you just beef. It's like smells like beef stew. It's beef stock. So it's got all the stuff that you make beef stew with in there. We got vegetables, we got some roasted meat, roasted bones. So it is a delicious thing, and it's not something that people used to do out of any kind of obligation. It's something that people used to do because it made their food taste good, and that's what recipes are for. It's like to make stuff that might not be so tasty if you just ate it like an animal off the floor, to upgrade it a little bit. So that's what, real bone stock is quite tasty. And so Kettle and Fire, maybe they're like probably the tastiest one on the market. But if you know what you're doing in the kitchen, you can just be like blow it away delicious.
Kettle and Fire is one brand that we mentioned, but we also, Epic Provisions is a decent brand, Swanson, Kitchen Basics are a couple other options. I mean, there's a lot to choose from there. All right, so let's talk about number 2. Let's keep moving along here. So certain organ meats. I don't know about anyone else listening to this right now, but organ meats is something that's new to me. I haven't eaten a whole lot of organ meats in my past. Thinking about eating a cow's second stomach or a cow's heart is not necessarily something high up on my list. I think I'd rather choose Taco Tuesday. But let's talk about organ meats and why they're filled with collagen.
So the organ meats that are filled, there's a bazillion organ meats, right? Like we got pancreas in there, and we got, tongue is an organ meat, eyeballs, right? So we just use that term to describe like the stuff that's not meat or bone, right? Because we're not very savvy in our way of describing all the different parts of. We don't eat the stuff, so it's like just this big mystery box. So most people think of things like liver and heart. But the truth is that it also includes intestines, and the intestinal tract is humongous. So it's a humongous source of collagen. If you take out the whole intestine tract, it probably, from a cow, I don't know, probably weighs at least 50 pounds. So it's huge, and it's super sturdy, right? Collagen is about sturdiness. Muscle is about movement and strength. Bone is about stiff, rigid support. But collagen is about like sturdy under tension and motion and everything, so it's extremely chewy. So anything that's really chewy is probably a really good source of collagen. And if you probably have never had tripe, but if you've tried to chew on the ends of the bones like that's what tripe would be like if you the ligaments and stuff like that, unless you cook it, right? So you do cook
and
it.
Tripe is the cow's second stomach, right, Dr. Cate?
There's actually multiple types of tripe. Like they just use the word tripe for multiple different things, right? Okay. So that have to do with the stomach, and then there's other animal stomachs that we eat, and other parts of the cow's intestine that we eat, and sometimes they just dump it all into calling it tripe. So it has something to do with the intestine of a cow. Okay, let's talk about why they talk about the second stomach. Like, who cares, right? It's all collagen. The first stomach is too, and so is the 6, or however many they have. But it looks different and it tastes different. And when you're into cooking, it matters exactly how it looks and exactly how chewy it is and exactly how it tastes. So that's just kind of like giving you a clue that they say for menudo, the national dish of Mexico, I think, or Puerto Rico. It's like the national band of Puerto Rico. I think it's the dish of Mexico. That it's made with the second stomach, but that's just telling you like how much more sophisticated folks are or can be about all this stuff, that it matters which stomach, right?
Yeah.
They know what to do with all of it, and they know how to make it taste good. And that's why we need collagen, because people used to do this everywhere, not just in Mexico. They used to do it in France and Italy and everywhere. The whole entire human race did this. We ate everything that we possibly could because because we knew how to do it. We had tools. We had fire. We had boiling water. We could chew on stuff. We had teeth. So dogs do it. Like dogs eat, chew on bones, right? It's just a natural thing. If you have teeth, you can chew on stuff. You're going to do that. And from 2 million years ago, when that's probably exactly what we did, to something like 1.5 million years we've been using fire, we probably have been getting collagen-rich foods and getting the chewy stuff pre-digested, broken down for us, so that we don't have to do so much chewing. So we got tons and tons of collagen, because collagen is the most abundant protein in the body. So all these organ meats, and the most popular, richest one is probably tripe. Skin is also a really rich source of collagen too.
You and I have talked about this topic a lot, where a cow's heart ain't necessarily going to be the richest source of collagen. And why is that again, DC?
Well, because the only rich source of collagen in the heart is the valves, which are so chewy that people usually just cut them out.
Right.
The heart valves, right? The flappy things that have to last for, they flap every minute, right? So they have to be super sturdy, very, very, very chewy. If there probably are some dishes where you boil the heart, right? Instead of like what we do is we usually fry it, strips, fry it, barbecue. But so we have to cut that out, because no one wants you'd be sitting there for an hour probably chewing on that. And the muscle meat, whether it's heart or a ribeye steak or name another muscle, a chicken drumstick, that stuff has some collagen, but it doesn't have very much collagen. It has maybe, depending on the cut, somewhere between, by weight, 3% of it to 5% is collagen. So that's not a rich enough source. You really do need to get the stuff that's super heavy duty and lots of collagen.
Well, that's a great transition. Let's talk about meat on bone, including cartilage, skin, bone, joint material. And actually, I'm going to back up 1 second. If you don't want to go pick up tripe and cook it, here's an excellent source. This is what I do. This is a brand, Ancestral Supplements. I get the beef liver in a capsule form. I just pop it every day. And there you go. I get my collagen from a capsule. So just thought I'd throw that in there. But meat on bone, this is the third food group that we talked about. Meat on bone, including cartilage, skin, bone, and joint material. Let's just address something right out of the gate. Is there collagen in meat?
There's some, but not very much, right? It's somewhere between 3 and 5%. If it's a tough cut, it's going to have more. It's that fibrous stuff that, makes something chewy. That is the collagen. So if it's a very tender cut, like the tenderloin, it's going to have less. Fish is very tender. It has a lot less collagen than land animals, because the collagen is there to make it tough. And you don't need to be that tough. If you're floating in water, you don't have to deal with gravity. But land animals have more collagen, and the bigger the land animal is, the more collagen they tend to have, especially in the muscles that they use all the time to fight against gravity, like the muscles close to the spine and that are making animals, grazing animals, move all the time.
So yeah, I mean, the key takeaway probably in this food group is, if you are going to eat the meat with the hopes of consuming collagen, you'll need to eat off the bone, devour the skin, and all those wonderful tendons and ligaments attached to the bone, because really, you said 3 to 5%, right, of muscle meat is going to have collagen.
Yes, but the bone really has nothing to do with it. So the term meat on the bone is just a term that I and my husband came up with when we were describing the strategies by which people all around the world would get their collagen. And that was a strategy. They consumed the meat on the bone, right? And by which we meant including the skin and the fat and the tendons and all the wiggly bits and everything like that, because that was a strategy by which we got collagen. And typically we would like boil it into some kind of a soup or stew to soften up the collagen and make it easily digestible. So when I say meat on the bone, it's like it has a special meaning. It doesn't necessarily mean we expect people to start chewing on bones.
Right. You know what my favorite product is to get my collagen from cartilage, skin, bone, joint material is there's a brand that has amazing pork rinds.
Oh yeah,
Epic Provision. Yeah, and so I crush. I really didn't like pork rinds in the past, but once I realized I had collagen, then I'm like all about it. But they're really delicious and a great source. And why is that? If someone's listening and they don't know what pork rinds are, shame on you, by the way. Why is that such a great source?
Because it's skin. So it's just the skin with some fat that was attached to it. And they just throw a whole bunch of skin with fat attached to it in a big giant pot. And it kind of boils itself in its own fat and becomes all bubbly and crunchy and totally delicious.
Totally delicious.
Maybe
Love
some
it.
salt.
All right, moving along here. Let's get into the last food group here, and that's eggs. And this is just saying eggs is going to create some confusion for some people, but we're going to break this down so people understand. So we're not talking about the egg whites. We're not talking about the yolk. We're talking about something else in the egg is where you get the collagen from. And what is that, Dr. Cate?
That's the membrane. So the membrane between the yolk and the shell actually serves a really important purpose for the growing chick, and it's pretty tough, and it's rich in collagen. And so people don't really eat that. We don't get that when we eat an egg, when we have a scrambled egg. So it's kind of a thing that the collagen supplement industry takes advantage of, that there's this collagen rich stuff that has a lot of even a special subtype of collagen supporting stuff called hyaluronic acid, and that's rich in eggshell membrane, and it's very expensive when you want to buy it in a cream, but you can just they make skin creams out of that are rich in hyaluronic acid, but you can also eat it, and eggshell membrane is one of the greatest sources of that. So we add that to our collagen supplement for that reason.
That's right. We're a multi-source collagen, which means we get our ingredients from multiple animals, and one of those ingredients is eggshell membrane, making us four sources. So really what we're trying to highlight here is, yes, eggs are a source of collagen, but people don't harvest the membrane and then just like pop it in their mouth, right, and eat it. Like, it's not a thing that they do. So really, if they want to think about eggs of getting collagen, they have to think of it more of how do I get it through potentially a supplement, or is there another way?
No, beyond supplements and eating meat on the bone and organ meats and stuff like that, absolutely no. You have to, because only animals make it. Right? Collagen is a special protein made out of special amino acids, and there's special sequences of amino acids that make collagen do its magic in our bodies, and it's just not manufactured by anything other than animals. Right? So the animal can be any kind of mammal. It can also even be a bird, any kind of bird, and any kind of fish. Right?
Dinosaur?
Anything that, absolutely. I'm pretty sure it could be a reptile, too, if dinosaurs are reptiles.
Yeah, that's actually a good question. I should probably know that. I take my kids to the science center almost every week. I should probably know if dinosaur is considered a reptile. That's a great question.
So alligators, which we have in abundance in our backyard, would be a great source of collagen if we would make alligator stew.
All right, so just to review for everyone before we get into foods that do not contain collagen, which I think is a really important thing to talk about. Here are the four foods: bone broth, stock, beef stock, like Dr. Cate is sipping on, certain organ meats like tripe, meat on the bone, including cartilage, skin, bone, joint material. You heard Dr. Cate explain the meat on the bone concept. Hopefully that made sense. And then eggs, and more specifically, eggshell membrane. Those are the four sources to eat collagen. So let's talk about, Dr. Cate, foods that maybe some others or sources say that you can get collagen from are leafy green vegetables, some fruits, grains. Can we just address this really quickly? No, you can't. Collagen is not in those things.
It's just not. No, it's not. First of all, collagen is a protein. Okay, so even if magically there was some plant out there that just accidentally happened to make collagen protein, it wouldn't make very much because those parts of plants that you just mentioned are very low in protein. Like, what did you say, leafy greens? There's very little, like you have to eat, if you had 12 cups of leafy greens, I think you might get about as much protein as what's in a hot dog, right? 12 cups. That's going to take you a long time to get through that. So plants are not a really rich source of any kind of protein, but they just simply don't have collagen. It's just not something that they do. Just like we humans, we don't have the ability we don't have chlorophyll, right? That's how plants they use oxygen to make sugar. Well, we can't do that. So if you want chlorophyll for any reason, you can't eat an animal product. If you want to eat chlorophyll, you got to get it from a plant, right? So, and speaking of sugar, people and animals don't really have a lot of sugar in their tissues either. So if you wanted to get sugar, you pretty much have to go to a plant. So let's give everybody their props for what they can do. Plants can do great with sugar and carbohydrates. They're not so great with protein, and they're lousy. They just don't do any collagen. But animals do a lot of collagen.
You heard it here first. Plants do not have collagen in them. Dr. Cate, this has been a lot of fun. I think we covered it all. I appreciate your time, and we'll talk to you next time.
See you next time.